Welcome back to BSI Game Preview. I'm Charlie Calieri alongside
Gavin Williams.
And today, we're going to be talking about the transfer portal and all the guys that are leaving, staying, and committed to St. Bonaventure for next basketball season.
Yeah, as of right now, there's a couple guys leaving, a couple guys staying, and there's a couple guys coming in.
Yeah.
And we got some big recruits coming in, so we have a lot to cover today. And we'll start off with guys who are leaving.
Right. Yeah, Chance Moore, one of the biggest names for the Bonnies this past season, per verbal commits. The 6'6 senior entered the transfer portal averaging 13 points per game, 6.5 rebounds on 46.3% field goal. He's an impactful point wing player who can handle the ball well and get downhill against defenses. Another guy entering the transfer portal for the Bonnies was Ibrahim Kaba. That was also per verbal commits. He's a 6'9 wing from East Orange, New Jersey, who signed in the early signing period during the 23-24 season. And he will enter the portal after 1 year at St. Bonaventure, but he didn't play a single game for the Bonnies.
Yeah, it was kind of tough to do a lot of research about Kaba because he didn't do anything for us.
Yeah, right.
But Chance is a big hit. That's a big, tough hit for the Bonnies. Obviously, a starter in probably almost every single game. And just the explosiveness in the interior for the Bonnies, especially within the paint, was a huge part of the success for the 22-win team. But unfortunately, his road ends at Bonaventure here.
Right, and for all these guys, we wish them nothing but the best on their new journeys in their basketball career. Moving on now to Jonah Hitton, who is another starter for the Bonnies, per SBU Unfurled. He only played one season for the Bonnies, the sixth straight guard from Chicago. He will enter the portal, averaging 8.2 points per game, 1.7 assists. He was a go-to shooter for the Bonnies at times this season, and after playing JUCO at Panola College, it'll be interesting to see where he decides to go because I think he can really help a team at the D1 level.
No, he definitely can. I don't necessarily see starting, because he was originally the sixth man for the Bonnies, but with DeJounte Bowen going out for the whole season, which we were not expecting,
right,
he had to step up in a big role, and he liked to shoot the three ball a lot. Was a little inconsistent, and I don't necessarily think this is the biggest hit towards the Bonnies. I think maybe it could be better, but with him going, it's going to open up new doors and a whole new pathway for a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, DeJounte Bowen. But another guy who's leaving is Miles Rose, a bench guy who never really saw a ton of time on the court. When he did, averaged half a point, half a rebound, half an assist around there. A little less than half, both those last two I was just talking about. But it was a good defender, a good on-guard defender. And that was a really big spark that came off the bench for pure defense and pure discarding other guards.
Yeah, Rose was a 3-year player for the Bonnies and never truly got a shot in that guard rotation that was pretty busy with guys like Daryl Banks and Charles Pride in years past. And with this year, with DeJounte Bowen and Jonah Hitton and all the guys, and Chance Moore, all the guys that we had in the team this year, it was pretty hard for Miles Rose to get into that rotation. And unfortunately, he is transferring, and hopefully he can get a good shot at another D1 school.
Yeah, I hope he can actually get a shot more than he did here. Maybe it was just a little bit too big of a school. Maybe if he goes down to a lower level, we'll see what he does. But hopefully he can get a real shot because I think the kid's got a lot of potential.
Right. Another guy, Noah Bologna, also per verbal commits, the 6'8 wing from France. He'll enter the portal after, again, one season with St. Bonaventure, where he averaged 2.6 points per game. He was an above-average defender for the Bonnies, pretty good on the perimeter for the Bonnies. He could definitely have some value on the right-fitting team on the D1 level, and he was a key piece of the Bonnies bench this season, which we don't usually say for a Mark Schmidt team.
No, I mean, this season was all riddled with injuries. But with Bologna coming off the bench, he was one that you could kind of see shoot the three ball a little bit better, was not a three-point shooting team. We were used to Daryl Banks. We were used to the guys shooting up a lot of shots, Charles Pride. This year was a lot different than last year, and especially with Bologna. And I know it only says 2.3 points, but at the end of the season where he really progressed and really added to the Bonaventure success. But fortunately for Bologna, his road out also ends here in a Bonnies uniform.
Right. Another guy that is arguably the biggest loss for the Bonnies this year is Leger Jones. Came into the Bonnies from junior college. Once again, big JUCO offseason for the Bonnies. Averaged 10.9 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, had 51 steals in 35 games. Shot 45% from the field and 39% from three. Pretty efficient shooting from the guy.
I would say, besides Melvin Council, who's the most successful and the most consistent on the team.
For sure.
I think whenever he put up a big shot, especially the game against Dayton, 20 points against Dayton, biggest game, that was his game. That was the Leger Jones game. And it's going to be really hard to not see him in a Bonnies uniform because I know the crowd really loved him a lot. Student section really loved him a lot, especially when he was raining threes,
right,
pulling out the cellies.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. But that was a guy I was really hoping would stay, especially with DeJounte coming back, maybe Melvin. We could have brought a good core back to really enter some leadership roles. He would have really been a huge part of bringing in new guys to teach them the ways of Bonaventure. But that is a guy I really wanted to see come back, but we will not see him come back. But that was definitely, I think, the biggest hit that the Bonnies took this offseason.
Right, he's going to be a great wing piece on a team, and it's really going to be interesting for him because I feel like he's a guy that can go to a higher level and be a good piece on a contending team.
Yeah, I really think that he might have a chance to go probably Power 5, and if he does go to like a good Power 5, maybe the best six man that a Power 5 could see, I would love to see him in another starting role because of how much he performed and how well he performed, especially 39% from three, 45% from the field. It was a consistent guy, and not to mention he was a great defender. He always knew where to be, what his job was, what his role was, especially when Schmidt played the zone defense, was not shying away. Had a couple amazing blocks off the glass. We'll see what he can do at the next level.
If you guys like seeing me and Gav talk sports, make sure to follow our podcast.
At Out of Bounds Podcast with a dot between every single word.
Yes, it is.
And right before we get into the guys that are for sure coming back, we have a couple maybes. You know, I think the biggest one that we need to come back is Melvin Council Jr.
Right, yeah, he was our leading ball handler this year, our point guard. He was the guy for the Bonnies this year. If the Bonnies were winning games, he was the guy behind it, him or Leger. And hopefully he can return to the Bonnies. I know he's getting some looks at some other bigger schools, but hopefully the Bonaventure community can rally around Melvin. He'll be back in a Bonnies uniform next year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be huge. He averaged 14.6 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 4.1 assists on 43.5% shooting, was the captain of the team, absolutely led a Bonnies team that, especially playing 40-ish minutes a game, a little under 40 maybe, probably one of the most playing times in the A-10. He's going to be the guy next year if he comes back, and he knows that.
For sure.
And it's tough to leave that behind, especially with going probably a Power 5.
Right,
and
yeah.
Obviously the money's great. We did see an interview with him that said he didn't necessarily care about the money. He's going to talk it over with his family. Hopefully he gets the Bonaventure way back in that conversation, but we'd love to have him back, obviously. Captain, leader, and hopefully future second-year guy on the Bonnies uniform.
And for the guys who are staying, big news here. DeSante Bowen, the former transfer from Iowa who played 51 games at Iowa, he's running back next year with the Bonnies after only appearing in 11 games this year after falling to injury, I think an ankle injury earlier in the season. When he did play, he was very effective on both sides of the ball, averaged 11.1 points per game with 4 assists, 3.5 rebounds per game, and 2 steals. Great on-ball defender who could be a great fit to the Bonnies next year with all the pieces we got moving.
Yeah, and he also averaged around 11 points a game, and that was not necessarily something that he needed to do. I thought that he was our best guard because it allowed Melvin to be the shooting guard that he truly is. And having DeSante in the piece for the Bonaventure basketball team, it was a really big stepping stone, I think, for Melvin. I think Bonaventure was playing their best basketball when we had DeSante Bowen. Especially you could look at that game against like Canisius or any of the prior to his injury, which was around second game of conference play. And I really think that having DeSante back, it's going to be a blowout season for him. He's going to absolutely perform just like how he was before injury.
For sure, hopefully. And another guy that's returning is a guy that you want to talk about, Xander Wedlow.
Yeah, Xander Wedlow, big backup center for us. And having a lot of playing time with Noel Brown. He's gone because no more eligibility. We loved his time here. But with Xander, he's the last center that is coming back so far. And he only averaged little numbers, but he had a huge role in the ending of the season. You could see Mark Schmidt trying to get him more playing time, get Noel some more rest, and you could see a lot of progression throughout the year. Always loves to get those yams in, loves the yams, gets the crowd going.
Very
Hey.
physical.
We love it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I love to see him coming back because if he is starting, which we'll see, it's gonna be a lot of competition with a new transfer coming in, but he could be a huge piece off the bench, possibly 6th, 7th man.
Yeah, and let's talk about those transfers coming in or commits for the Bonnies. The biggest one, Big Joe, Big Red, Joe Grahovic, coming in per SBU Unfurled from Fullerton College, the reigning SoCal JUCO Player of the Year. The 6'10 transfer averaged 15.9 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists per game, impressive 62% from the field, and almost 40% from 3. This guy can really do it all, and it makes a lot of sense. He grew up watching Magic Johnson highlights on YouTube because he didn't have cable TV in his house, so that was how he was able to digest his basketball highlights. And very cool story from Joe, and he's going to be a great fit for the Bonnies next year.
Going back to the story, I think he has one of the best stories in Division I basketball,
100%,
college basketball.
100%.
Great story. I mean, If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely look into it. It was a great story, and now he's coming to a smaller school from California all the way to Olean, New York. It's a weird transition.
Right, yeah.
He had some looks from some bigger schools, turned it down. Probably wants that community aspect, which we love.
Mm-hmm.
We love having Joe, Big Red, come in here. And so something that we like to talk about, three-point shooting. When he does shoot the three ball, he's shooting close to 40%.
Right.
And that is right where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of guys last year who said we're good three-point shooters that were shooting right around 40%. That's exactly what Big Red's going to bring to the team. He's 6'10", plays like a guard. I am just so excited to see this guy. Maybe all the red afros in the student section. It's really going to be something that it might, when we look back in our college career, hey, remember Big Red? Absolutely, we remember Big Red.
I mean, I'm excited to see Big Red, Big Joe next year. I think he's going to bring a lot of juice to this Bonnies team, and I think he's going to really open some eyes around the country.
Especially with Jay Billis already commenting on how hard it is to play here. I think he's going to adapt and absolutely love the crowd. I think he came for a visit against George Washington. It was Super Bowl Sunday. There wasn't a ton of fans. Just wait till the RC's packed, and he's going to be one of the front runners in Bonaventure's success next year.
Yeah, I think so. And another guy that you want to talk about again, committed Frank Mitchell from the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, familiar face to Bonaventure fans. Just not last season, season before. He was playing for Canisius.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
big rival.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him play here, and we saw him get down and dirty in the paint. He's a 6'8" center. That is what I think is going to complement really well, having 6'10" forward, having a 6'8" center. It's going to be boards. It's going to be a lot of hard-nosed defense, a lot of boxing out, a lot of getting into the paint strong. It's going to be a lot of backing down. Against Bonaventure, we saw him put up 11 points against us. But if we look at some of his games, he just is transferring from Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, who just got a brand new head coach. But if we look at towards the end of the season, he was playing his best basketball for Minnesota, where he played a great game against number 12 at the time, Wisconsin, where he had 11 points, had 12 against Rutgers, had 10 against Northwestern. This kid's ready to be a part of the Bonaventure community. He's from Toronto, which is pretty local to here. I mean, Canisius is a little closer, but I think we're going to see a lot of success from Mr. Frank Mitchell in a Bonaventure uniform. He is 6'8", 260, ready to get down and dirty in that paint.
It's been an exciting offseason so far. Stay tuned for week 2, a Bonaventure game preview where we'll be talking about the transfer portal and the updates. And maybe when everything settles in, we'll be able to talk about things further. But for now, thank you guys for watching BSAC Game Preview. I'm Charlie Calieri.
And I'm Gavin Williams.
Thank you and have a day.
Have a day.